After you eat a meal, food is broken down into simpler molecules and used as fuel so your body can function properly. An organ in the abdomen known as the pancreas produces insulin, which is a hormone that helps your cells absorb the glucose found in the bloodstream after a meal. Dietary fat, on the other hand, is broken down into fatty acids, which are then used by the body for energy, as well as many other biological processes like testosterone production, for example. Excess fatty acids are converted back to triglycerides, and then most of those triglycerides are stored in adipose tissue, otherwise known as body fat. Meanwhile, excess carbohydrates from that meal will first get converted into glycogen, which is a string of glucose molecules that can be stored and used later on. Glycogen is mostly stored in the liver and your muscles. Since there's a biological limit to how much glycogen a person can store, once that limit is reached, the rest of the energy is converted into triglycerides and once again stored as adipose tissue. This is the routine process that our bodies go through when we eat throughout the day. But what would happen if you were to totally stop eating for 3 days? Well, after about 6 to 10 hours of fasting, most of the leftover glucose that's still circulating in your bloodstream will be used for fuel. Since your body isn't receiving any new nutrients, it has to start using its own glycogen reserves to fuel itself. It's at that point that the pancreas secretes glucagon. Glucagon is not the same as glycogen or glucose. It's actually a hormone, and one of its jobs is to signal your body to release glycogen and fatty acids. Also, if your last meal was low in carbohydrates, your body may start producing ketones as an energy source within this early stage of fasting. Ketones are chemicals produced by the liver when fat cells are converted into fatty acids. So in general, during those first 6 hours, your blood glucose levels will start to elevate and then they'll gradually decline. Meanwhile, your ketone levels will do pretty much the opposite. They'll gradually rise, especially after approximately the 10th hour of fasting. Now, before you ever hit that 10th hour mark, if you're accustomed to eating 3 square meals a day or you regularly eat a high carb diet, you'll probably experience hunger and low energy levels. The hunger you feel isn't only due to being low in calories. In fact, it's largely tied to your circadian rhythm. Your body has gotten into a pattern and now expects food at certain times of the day that you normally eat. This is due to the hunger hormone ghrelin, which has the effect of stimulating your appetite when it's released. So if you stop eating, studies show that ghrelin will spike automatically around the times of the day that you typically have your meals, which usually would be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that spike will make you feel hungry. If you continue fasting, these hunger pangs will subside after about 2 hours, and your body will naturally adapt to a new meal frequency over time. After fasting for at least 10 hours, your body will also start to increase the levels of a hormone produced by the pituitary gland called human growth hormone, otherwise known as HGH. Fasting can actually increase HGH just as much as exercise, stress, or hypoglycemia. HGH plays an important role in the fasting process because it's associated with enhanced muscle repair, exercise performance, stronger immunity, and faster recovery from injuries. Although HGH is unlikely to lead to muscle growth in the absence of nutrients while you're fasting, it's believed to be responsible for delaying the breakdown of muscle while fasting. It does this by stimulating metabolic processes such as protein synthesis and muscle tissue repair. According to research, the longer you fast, the more HGH you'll produce. For example, a study found that fasting just 2 days increased HGH production by 5x. Now, at around 12 to 16 hours in, your body will continue to deplete its glycogen stores while also increasing its reliance on ketone bodies. Around this time, you may start to feel cold since your body temperature will be lower from not digesting food. The benefits of this initial period of fasting have been well documented because multiple studies have been designed to observe people fasting for Ramadan, which is a Muslim holiday where people stop eating food from dawn to sunset every day for 1 month. The studies on this topic all provide an excellent overview of the benefits that fasting for 10 to 17 hours daily has on the human body. According to the findings, there's great improvement in weight management, digestion, and cholesterol levels. Also, studies show a significant decrease in inflammation markers associated with a number of diseases such as homocysteine, C-reactive protein or CRP, and total cholesterol to HDL ratio. In general, inflammation is something that most of us want to lower throughout our bodies, and relatively short-term fasting can actually help us accomplish just that. As time goes on, at about 18 hours, your body becomes more reliant on fatty acids and ketone production accelerates since blood sugar levels are low and there's very little glycogen to borrow from your liver or muscles because those glycogen reserves are rapidly depleting. This is when inflammation decreases exponentially and there's a huge spike in HGH as well as a molecule known as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or in short BDNF. HGH and especially BDNF promote the growth of new neurons and synapses in the brain, helping your nerves, sensory organs, and brain communicate more efficiently. BDNF also helps existing brain neurons survive for longer, all of which ends up enhancing learning and memory capacity. Usually after 16 to 18 hours of fasting, an auto-recycling process known as autophagy will also kick in. During this process, your body starts recycling any junk it finds. This junk can range from damaged proteins to bacteria to dysfunctional cells. Your body will essentially take all this garbage clunking up your system and use it for energy. So basically, this is a cleaning mechanism for your body. There are a couple factors that are also known to increase the rate of autophagy. These include caloric restriction, starvation, as well as increased levels of HGH and BDNF. Fasting happens to incorporate all three of these conditions, so fasting is a very effective method for initiating the autophagy process. Not only is this process one of the rare forms of detoxing that isn't a scam and actually works, but autophagy also has therapeutic benefits for both your lifespan and the aging process. Short-term fasting can even make your white blood cells better at fighting off diseases and overall should improve your immunity. On the other hand, when you fast for a very long time period, like a week or longer for example, you can actually harm your immune system due to malnutrition. But after fasting for just 24 to 32 hours, your body should most likely be out of glycogen and entirely reliant on its own fat stores for energy. So it should come as no surprise that there will be a significant increase in free fatty acid concentration circulating in your bloodstream at this time. This is especially true for men, who will experience a 4-fold greater increase than women in plasma free fatty acid concentration. Certain organs like your brain will still need some glucose to function, so your body will begin to find crafty ways to make that happen. Primarily, this is accomplished by separating triglycerides that come from your fat stores into glycerol and free fatty acids. While the free fatty acids can be used immediately for energy, the glycerol can be sent to the liver, where it can be converted into glucose through a process known as gluconeogenesis, and that can temporarily supply the brain with the glucose it needs without breaking muscle tissue down just yet. Contrary to popular belief, your body will actually reduce its protein breakdown rate substantially after just 24 hours of fasting to try to preserve muscle. Don't get me wrong, you can definitely lose some muscle mass as you fast for long periods of time, especially if you're already relatively lean. If you already don't have a lot of fat, your body is more likely to convert protein into glucose through that same process of gluconeogenesis. However, you don't have to worry too much about muscle loss until after approximately the first 3 days of fasting. This is because your body will be able to get the energy and glucose it needs mostly from body fat. The boost in human growth hormone production as an anti-starvation response will also help during this process. Not only will it assist with the fat loss, but it'll also help spare amino acids and preserve muscle mass during the first couple days that you're not eating. After the first 24 to 32 hours, your scale will also most likely show some weight loss, which is primarily due to water loss from depleting carbohydrates as well as some fat loss. This fat loss is by no means permanent. If you overindulge in food in your next meal, you can quickly regain all the weight you lost. But continuing to fast for 48 hours has been shown to provide additional benefits for your mood, mental clarity, and focus. Numerous clinical studies have shown that fasting for 2 to even 7 days can help treat depression, with patients reporting improvements in mood, alertness, and tranquility. Keep in mind, if you're not used to fasting, it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. You can definitely experience some negative drawbacks if you're new to fasting. Examples include headaches, low energy levels, aches and pains throughout your body, and digestive issues. All of these things are likely to improve over time as you adapt to fasting. Once you get to about 3 days of fasting, the processes of enhanced immunity, autophagy, and reduction in inflammation continue at an even deeper level. There's also evidence that the body starts creating hematopoietic stem cells, which can help regenerate many other types of cells throughout the body. But of course, at some point, the cons really start to outweigh the pros. Even though studies show that humans can survive several months without eating, these observations are mostly seen in studies on hunger strikes and in very controlled clinical settings. That being said, without medical supervision, fasting for 3 complete days is extremely hard for most people. After 72 hours, not only will the body be much more likely to start breaking down muscle tissue, but it might also start leading to vitamin and mineral deficiencies as well as digestive issues. Research observing a 41-year-old man fasting for 40 days gives amazing insights into how a 3-day fast can be better than fasting for a longer time period. In this study, we can see that ketones are produced in greater quantities during the first few days of fasting, and after the 5th day, the levels are more or less neutralized. Researchers also observed a maximum of 0.9 kilograms lost per day in the first few days of fasting. After that, the rate of weight loss slowed down. So it seems that you get the most out of ketosis during the first few days of fasting. This also guarantees that most of the weight loss will come from stored fat rather than muscle mass. Up until the 3rd day, your body attempts to avoid protein catabolism and muscle breakdown and instead tries using ketones to take over as the primary energy source. After 3 days, however, we have 3 indicators that show us that the body might have to resort to breaking down muscle tissue to fuel itself. First, we have a study that demonstrates that by the 3rd day of fasting, the glutamine concentration in skeletal muscles falls by 34%. Glutamine plays a major role in maintaining and fueling lean muscle mass. Its role is to stimulate the absorption of other amino acids by the muscles and increase the rate of protein synthesis. So when glutamine levels drop, it means the rate of muscle breakdown will increase in its relation to muscle protein synthesis. This is a recipe for muscle loss. The other 2 indicators are negative potassium and nitrogen balances,